Okay, guys, sorry that my week 5 waiver wire winners weren't, on time, but I got busy with school and that has priority. So, sorry. But anyway, week 5 waiver wire winners. There weren't that many guys who we didn't expect to be good do really good, but we got a couple, so let's go ahead and get started with them. First up at quarterback, we got Sean Hill out of Detroit. Now, a couple videos ago, I said that Sean Hill wasn't working out in Detroit. When Matt Stafford comes back, he was going to take that starting job from him and run with it. Now, I don't doubt that. I still think that whenever Matt Stafford comes back, Sean Hill's not going to have a starting gig anymore. But he did pretty well against the St. Louis defense that isn't exactly reliable. 227 passing yards and 3 TDs, one to Calvin Johnson, one to Nate Burleson, and another to Brandon Pettigrew, all with no interceptions. That's what kind of surprised me. So that was pretty good, and there's no guarantee that Matt Stafford's coming back next week against the New York Giants. So I think that he might be able to still give you a solid fantasy line, at least for one more week. If you're in dire need of a quarterback, say you're in a really deep league or something, then yeah, I think that Sean Hill could help you out. Owned in 32% of fantasy leagues, so he's still out there and he's still able to help you. Then we go to running backs. I could give this one to Brandon Jackson very easily. He was pretty much left for dead a few weeks ago, and I can pretty much say with all certainty that I didn't have any faith left in him. I thought that they were going to, try and get Willis McGahee somehow, but, that didn't work. So, or not Willis McGahee, what am I thinking? Marshawn Lynch. Now, the reason I said Willis McGahee is because he is this week's winner. Because I thought he was going to be left for dead too. Because Ray Rice was coming back and he was going to probably get the majority of the workload. And guess what? I was right. 133 rushing yards and 2 TDs for him, but Willis McGahee still performed nicely, 67 rushing yards and another TD to boot. Now, Baltimore's running game is pretty dynamic, and it's obvious that even though they have a bunch of weapons in the passing game, I'm pretty sure that most of those guys are going to be used pretty much as decoys, because they are not going to the passing game that often. They're sticking with the run, and I can respect them for that because that's their specialty. But, so I can fairly well see Willis McGahee still getting a fair amount of carries. He still probably is going to get some of the red zone work, at least a little bit. I know that Ray Rice kind of shanghaied that from him, but Willis McGahee can still break one every now and then, and he might get back to working goal line duties if Ray Rice slips up a little bit. Doubtful, but it happened this week. Okay. His one touchdown came on a 30-yard touchdown run. Pretty good. So, yeah, I guess. Well, what do you want me to say? Everybody else that is above him was owned in 70% of fantasy leagues or more, other than Brandon Jackson, and I didn't want to go with him. So, come on, cut me some slack. At wide receiver, going with Steve Johnson. Now, I got really lucky on this one because I actually picked him up in one of my leagues, and it almost got me the win. Yeah, almost. I was like 5 points away from winning that one. Anyway, Steve Johnson for the Buffalo Bills put up 46 receiving yards, not great, with 2 TDs added on. That is great. So, good job to him, and thanks to him for helping me nearly win my fantasy league. Oh well. But anyway, yeah, enough about that. But even though he did do that well, I doubt that he's going to keep it up because, he's the number 2 or 3. I think he's actually the number 3 wide receiver in an offense that is pretty crappy, to be honest with you. I mean, he's behind Lee Evans and Roscoe Parrish. Woohoo, them some exciting names right there. So, yeah, avoid him from now on. The only reason he did really good in this week was because he was facing Jacksonville's crappy defense. And Buffalo still couldn't win that one. Shows you how good they are. And finally, my waiver wire winner at tight end. Now, most of the people I could have gone with were owned in 50% of leagues or more. but I decided to go with Brandon Pettigrew here, and I'll tell you why. He's not just a winner this week, he's been a winner for the past several weeks. Now, I took a look at this, and it turns out Brandon Pettigrew has averaged almost 11 point, or almost 11 and a half points in the past 4 weeks in fantasy. And he's still only owned in 30% of leagues. So Brandon Pettigrew is a big time weapon that you can invest in down the road. Now, the reason I'm going with him is because there wasn't that much output by any other tight end. Only one went for over 100 yards, and that's Vernon Davis, and he's owned in 99% of leagues. Other than that, Mercedes Lewis is owned in 52, and he got 2 TDs. So, and I could have gone with somebody like Donald Lee, Ed Dixon, or Andrew Corliss, who is all owned in 0% of leagues, but then there's nobody to congratulate there. So, I'm out there. Oh, and by the way, the 11.5 points I was referring to, that's in PPR leagues. So, just to give you a quick heads up about that. Yeah. Okay, so that's just about it. There's your waiver wire winners for this week. Sean Hill of Detroit, Willis McGahee of Baltimore, Steve Johnson of Buffalo, and Brandon Pettigrew of Detroit. See you later.